When it comes to the Transformers movieverse, I like to think of it like trying to put salt on a steak. If you sprinkle a little bit on there, you can add some flavor to it while also increasing the shelf life of the franchise. If you put too much of it there, you wind up with a bunch of dried up, bitter tasting bullshit that gives you chest pain, increases your chance of premature death, and will wind up killing you in the long run. Instead, talk about Studio Series 38 Voyager class Optimus Prime. Prime transforms into a flat-nosed Freightliner truck of unknown make and origin. I can't find any info on this make, and even if I do, I know some vehicle elitist that knows more about cars than I do is going to say, actually, this is a 1080Z turbo-modified Freightliner that enhances brakes, and okay, I fucking get it. In his robot mode, this figure certainly looks pretty boss. It's a blend of IDW, G1, and Movieverse compressed into a neat little file of fuck yeah, made into a robot mode that I deeply enjoy. There's just one problem. During transformation after 1,471 frames of animation, I realized I missed a goddamn step in the legs. The legs had these gray panels that fold out 3 different ways that cover up the back of the truck, and the gray plastic bits that form the inside of the leg feel brittle as all hell and a tad bit stupidly tight. Other than that, things in robot mode feel not too shabby, but not exactly wonderful either. The gray pads in the legs are hollow and don't lock into anything, so when you squeeze them in, it really bends back the plastic. The forearms look really goddamn strong from the front, but when you get to the back, you see why, with the windows lazily slapped into the back because the panels of the truck motor put into the forearms. This feels incredibly lazy and rushed, and I think I have a hunch why. Hasbro probably wanted to ensure that the screen accuracy elitists, as I call them, got exactly what they wanted 2.4 seconds after it got released in theaters. Even though it never showed up on screen, this is what they had to do to appease them. On one hand, this incentivized them not to use a faux truck grille and cleverly compress the bumper into the back in a way that's hidden and the wheels aren't just hanging out on his ass. There's no kibble in the back because all of it went into the forearms, however. Other than that, the robot mode looks pretty clean from the front. The back could be better in the orange, but the rest of that also looks pretty clean. The blend of cues from G1, IDW, and the Movieverse takes all of the fan service possible and shoves it right in your face on a $30 budget. The head sculpt is a little weird in my opinion, with his eyes being ever so slightly too far apart, but the rest of the mechanical detail and the heroic look of the figure just looks amazing. But how does the figure look when it moves? The articulation on this figure includes a ball-jointed head, full shoulder movement for some rotation and out, bicep bend and rotation, wrist swivel and waist rotation, full movement on the hips, thigh rotation, knee bend, and foot tilt. The articulation manages to have the same standard articulation that we're all used to on Voyager figures, but the joints look off in certain areas. The shoulders have these kibble stacks that inhibit rotation unless they're folded out. The legs feel like they don't want to stay together, and the knees look like TFC Constructicon elbows. Minus that, the joint balance is definitely pretty solid. It can hold its own pretty well. They could feel better in my opinion, but they're where they need to be at for a Voyager. The transformation, on the other hand, is where shit starts at the ceiling fan, and you start to see some of that rush engineering I was talking about. The bicep kibble rotates and the shoulders move out for clearance as the chest tab opens up. The head folds down and the backpack unfurls itself in the truck parts as the torso bends back. The waist rotates to align up the front of the truck, and then you had to fold in an absolute shit heap of panels into the side and the roof of the truck to get everything lined up before the G1 shoulder shove takes place. The legs pull off some relatively unusual tricks. The panels on the bottom, inside, and outside of the legs rectangle themselves into the bottom of the truck as the trailhead folds out of the left leg, and the back of the truck accordions itself into place, closing off the back of the figure for the first time in history. Once you finally get into the truck mode, it looks really clean and organized, but there's really not any fun getting it there. The transformation looks manageable enough, but really doesn't feel good in hand. The panels take 20 minutes to line everything up, and everything wants to come apart as you try to force it in. I feel like Prime's just desperately trying to keep his truck mode together, but he really does not want to be a truck. I understand this is a very high complexity design based off a real life vehicle, but I don't feel like that's a reason why there has to be 50 panels that have to be perfectly aligned down to the micrometer to make anything work. Don't get me wrong, the figure's definitely justified in its complexity, but I wish it could do so with a hell of a lot more grace. Other than that, the truck mode actually fixes a couple of flaws that every other G1 style Prime's had in the history of ever. It covers up the back of the truck for the first time, and this is the first Optimus Prime figure based off his G1 design at a retail level that managed to pull that off. Upon taking a look at the truck mode, I found that seemed like the back was way too thin, but then I remembered that flat-nosed trucks do have a back that's actually this thin. I don't know what it is, but G1 Optimus Prime in his toon form did something to me where I can't look at a flat-nosed truck the same way anymore because I feel like there should be feet hanging 6 feet scale-wise out of the back. I literally cannot unsee it, and I have no idea why. I'm a fan of this truck mode despite the hell I had to deal with to get it all here. It looks clean and well made, and the trail hits is a nice addition despite the fact he doesn't have a goddamn trailer. Fuck! The silver on the truck grill is gorgeous, and the smokestacks aren't too small this time, and it also manages to roll incredibly smoothly despite its design complexity, but I feel like 80% of the plastic mass went into the cab. Just so I can have the opportunity to show this off again, let's get on the transformation from truck to robot. The legs flip themselves inside out and the feet rotate in a way that's completely batshit insane. The legs rectangle themselves out in a way that's really creative, and they all wrap around to form the legs of the figure. The panels you spend 20 minutes folding into the truck mode become much easier to sort out, and the truck grill folds down neatly out of the way. The shoulders fold the G1 style shoulder flip. After folding back the shoulder cable as the chest windows separate to leave room for the head on the other side. The head closes in, the torso folds up, and the truck grill folds in the back neatly to cover up the wheels. The torso bends into place, and then the figure stands straight up, and then you get him back into his robot mode. Despite the proportional wonkiness and design flaws of this figure, I feel like the engineering team managed to pull off a friggin' miracle on this figure. It isn't perfect by any means, but my god, they didn't have any time to make it. It is amazing that they managed to pull off this good of a transformation with the time constraints that they had, and I think this figure really does show the labor of love that goes into the engineering and art production on this figure. I still think it would have been 1,000 times better if they took more time to figure out how shit was going to clip together, but what they did in the short amount of time that they had is just amazing. I don't feel like this is the Prime figure that goes like into my Hall of Fame that I'm going to keep anytime soon, but I will say if you're a fan of the Movieverse and you want a G1S Prime without the Evasion Mode KO color scheme, I say this figure's worth a shot. It isn't as good as Earthrise Prime in my opinion despite the lack of kibble on the back, but if it fits your collection aesthetic, it's a great figure to own for the Movieverse. This has been the Stop Motion Reviewer on my review for Studio Series 38 Voyager Class Optimus Prime.